Hello and welcome to another installment of Fireside Discussions with your host, James Bigsby. I am your host, James Bigsby. Today's topic is the NRA, or the National Industrial Recovery Act of June 16, 1933. This act represented the thinking of business groups like the Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturers, and the leading trade groups. It created a new National Recovery Administration, or the NRA, under which codes of fair dealing for each industry would be made by leaders of business and labor. However, the NRA was a failure of FDR's New Deal. Black workers were the last hired and the first fired. They had less money spent on their education and were not allowed to live wherever they could afford, but had to live in special areas. Black people were hurt the hardest during the Depression, as seen here. This is Barney Jackson.
Ha! Sure does suck living in the Depression.
You see, Barney lost his job because he's black, and because of the NRA Act, he's making a lot less money than me.
You get off my poet.
Oh yes, hello there. Let's continue our discussion on the NRA, shall we? The NRA's regulating of the prices of goods could be considered monopolistic to most people. The antitrust laws did not apply under the NRA. It also gave workers the right to organize into unions. The NRA was under the control of Hugh Johnson, who was on the War Industries Board during World War I. He drew up codes for all the nation's business.
Hey man, you want to buy an apple?
Get off my property!
Come on, man. Soon the NRA was being criticized from all angles. Owners of small firms said that it would be helping the monopolies to swallow them up, and it would be too expensive anyway. Business leaders said that codes gave the unions an unfair advantage, and everyone seemed to consider the codes a means of self-production. Thanks for the apple, Barney.
Yeah!
The NRA Act was against black people in general. It allowed blacks to earn much less money than whites. But Roosevelt still had growing support among the minorities. In 1932, only 23% voted for FDR. But in 1936, 49% voted for him. And in 1940, 56% of the minority voted for him. When an anti-lynching bill was proposed in Congress, FDR refused to support it. Mostly because many of his fellow supporters were Southern whites. However, despite its failures, large and small businesses under the NRA rapidly organized. These industries ranged from steel and textiles to dog food and hair curlers.
And that concludes our episode of Fireside Discussions. Join us next week when we look at the mating rituals of frogs. I'm your host, James Bigsby.